Saints 20, Falcons 17. Darren Rizzi beats Atlanta in first game as head coach in New Orleans. Ladies and gentlemen, the backdrop today off the bench, we are talking T-Bob, Jacob Hester, and we're talking about the Saints' huge win, snapping a 7-game losing streak against the Atlanta Falcons. The question today is the culture changed. The question today is it all fixed? Did Darren Rizzi do what Dennis Allen couldn't do? And are the Saints good to go moving forward? We're going to talk about that in length. We're going to react like only I can do. Let's get right into it, shall we?
Speaking of new eras, well, I give LSU's performance a big doom on Saturday. I give the Saints boom, boom, boom. That's right. The Rizzler.
There it is.
Yes. The Rizzler era off to a big one, doing exactly what we said, right? The interim bump.
Yep, we knew what would happen. I mean, this is a tale as old as time. We knew that the Saints would get a serious bump motivation for two reasons. One, Allen is gone. And two, the fact that Rizzi is this kind of man manager, locker room guy, we knew the motivation would be at the absolute maximum. Sometimes that is all the difference in the NFL.
Timing up perfectly with the Atlanta Falcons game. Now, let's be clear. I still don't think I want the Saints to win another game after this, but I wanted them to win this one on Sunday. And the boys found a way. It's funny. They made a lot of the same mistakes that they have made in these games that they have ended up losing.
Yeah.
But for whatever reason, call it new leadership and inspiration, like whatever have you, despite making some of the same mistakes, they made the winning plays in the end. And that was the thing that I don't.
Well, I mean, there's a little bit of back and forth where they made the winning plays, sure. They also made what could have been and should have been the losing plays, and Atlanta didn't make the winning plays. So, some of it is kind of chalked up. Like we did a little bit of the box score review after the game. The Saints definitely should have lost the game, I think. The true box score is probably like Atlanta wins by 3. But like I said Sunday, and I'll say the same thing today, who cares? Like at a certain point, box score stuff matters. Like when it comes to gambling and sports betting. I can already tell you, I mean, it all hasn't out yet, but I would assume money is going to be on the Cleveland Browns next week and fading the Saints because of the box score and because of how it all worked out. Now, for this game, does that really matter that much? No, because all that matters is, hey, we broke a 7-game losing streak. Hey, we got a win against our rivals, the Atlanta Falcons. It's a happy day. So,
Don't know exactly how to quantify it or talk about it, but that was the problem in the Dennis Allen era, is you would do a lot of the good stuff to set yourself up, but you could never come through with the winning plays. And whether it's the Tyrann Mathieu pick, Chase Young finally coming up with a sack forced fumble there at the end.
Yeah.
I mean, hell, again, you made the losing plays, right? Alvin Kamara has the dagger touchdown in his hands on third down. He drops it.
I mean, and that's kind of like, that's the thing. You look back and you say, okay, well, how much actually did change? I would say not much. I would say we still had like the drop, which was horrible. Even some of the decision making, I saw a lot of people saying like, finally, Darren Rizzi did what Dennis Allen couldn't do. This right here, this punt, we're up 3. We're in the fourth quarter. It's 4th and 1 on the 47. That right there is kind of a Dennis Allen punt. This is the kind of stuff where you're 2-7 at the time. You're an interim head coach. You're playing your rivals. You have a 3-point lead. You're on the 47. This is kind of the area where you do want to show some guts and go for it. So I was a little surprised at this one right here. We did go for it earlier on the 4th and 2, which was you're supposed to. I didn't like the play calling with Taysom. I talked about that a little bit on Twitter. We had the 4th and 2, and we go Taysom empty set in the backfield, and it's like, why don't you just tell them? Invite the defense into the huddle. Tell them what you're going to do. I think we have the perfect 4th and short play. It's that almost like a wishbone kind of. Taysom's playing like the wing back, and it's like a wing T type situation. Taysom's over on the side, and he comes in, he pulls, and it's like a fullback dive to Taysom. There's also some movement to the outside. Like it could be a pitch, it could be a dive. It's kind of like a sneak play. I think that should be the Saints' version of the tush push, where it's 4th and 1, 4th and 2, line up and do that. And you either hand it off to Taysom on that little quick dive, or you're getting it to Kamara or whatever the rest of the play is. I've never seen the rest of the play because it's always been a Taysom dive, but that's what I would do. And I'd say, look, I don't think you can stop Taysom Hill on 4th and 1. I don't think you can stop him on 4th and 2. And if you can, you're probably only going to be able to do it 20% of the time. So I'll take 80% success on 4th and 1, 4th and 2, 4th and inches. That's how the Saints should be. And it should be exactly like the tush push, where 4th and 1, 4th and 2, 4th and inches, you knew what was going to happen. Philadelphia was going to line up and do the tush push. Is it pretty? No. They just spammed what works. And Kubiak, I know we're not talking about Kubiak in this video per se, but I thought Kubiak got way too, it's almost like he got in his own head. Like it's almost, he got too like, okay, I know it works, and now they're trying to stop that. So now I'm going to do the total opposite. You know, it's like I said this in the stands. At the beginning of the game, we were running the ball at will. They adapted to stop the run. So what did we do? We went empty set. We said, okay, you want to dare me to pass? Let's do it. My question was, why don't you just take a baby step and utilize play action? I feel like we didn't see any play action in this game. And it feels like everything was like spread it out wide, keep everything out on the outside, and we'll just have Carr in like this empty set. That is not the route to success for this offense. It certainly is not the route to success with Kevin Austin and some of the Jermaine Jackson and Mason Tipton. Like when that's your wide receivers, spreading it out isn't exactly the right thing to do. And I understand what he's doing. He's trying to adapt to the defense adapting, but I just think he went way too far at certain points of the game. Way too happy to throw the ball on 1st down, 2nd down. And we saw that in Carolina. We'd run the ball 1st down, get it to like 2nd and 6. Then we throw it on 2nd down, throw it on 3rd down, incomplete, kicking field goals. That's exactly what happened in Carolina. Clint has to lean into like, hey, I know it gets us 5 yards. I know it gets us 6 yards. We're kind of, we're down players. We've got kind of weak wide receivers. The separation might not be there. We're just going to keep things simple but effective. And I've seen Sean McVay do that before, where Sean McVay has ran play action rollout pass like 12 straight times. And if it works, it works. And I thought Kubiak got a little too, and I don't know if it's like him trying to figure out like a happy medium between what the offense looks like at full strength and what the offense looks like without with players missing. I don't know if Kubiak's figuring stuff out, but I thought the play calling was suspect at certain times in this game.
He calls it the lamest football moment he's ever had his entire life. But what did you do? You stayed locked in. You reached down deep inside, and you still find a way to win that game in the end. So, again, I don't know what this year holds, but at least for one day in the Superdome, you beat the Falcons. You don't let him sweep. You don't let him walk into your trap and take over your trap. Yep. And if nothing else, in a season full of crap, just like the head coach's toilet, at least there was a bright spot there. Yeah. And if you're not understanding that reference, apparently Rizzi in his interview said that he got to the stadium, clogged the toilet, and he thought it was going to be a crappy day. Game day morning, Rizzi goes to the bathroom in his new locker room, the head coach's room, goes to the bathroom in the new locker room and clogs the toilet immediately off the bat. Some would have called that a bad omen. You know what Rizzler said? He said, no, I'm going to overcome this adversity, just like this team is going to overcome any crap that clogs us up along the way later that day. Great job, Rizzi. I did love seeing the passion on the sideline, to be fair. I know it sounds like I'm being tongue-in-cheek, but I loved his passion. And Rizzi was out of control. I mean, there was sometimes, like, if you just watched him on the sidelines, he was running up and down the sidelines. At the end of the game, I thought he tore his ACL, jumping up and down, celebrating. Apparently, he got a stinger. I do like what Rizzler was doing and bringing. The Rizzler is, I like, how
how long term is it? How much does it really? We'll see. We'll see. I'm going to grade him appropriately for one game. For one game, I think, okay, cool. I'll give you a B. I'll give you a B. But if he wants a legitimate shot at being the head coach long term, we need a whole lot more B's and a couple of A's sprinkled in there.
I do think the team fed off it.
Yeah, it did. Like when they won,
sure.
It did feel like Peyton Turner shoved him like a little too hard. He's like, hold up, man. Like, I'm old, man. You're in full pads. You're a giant.
That's what he said. He said Peyton Turner, he like chewed Peyton Turner out for celebrating 30 seconds before the game was over. Peyton Turner gets him back after the game is over and hits him in like his hip or something, and he has a history of stingers in his hip, and it like locked him up. Is basically what the report was out of that.
Get off me. It was, and look, the Saints are playing with guys that, like, you got to be deep into fantasy. You got to be like Tay levels of fantasy football to even know who some of the guys are.
Well, I mean, what's one guy's first NFL game? He's been out of college football for like 3 years. I guess he's been bouncing around on practice squads and whatnot. Austin?
Yeah, Kevin Austin. We're in the stands, and someone looks over, and they're like, who is that? And I'm sitting here like, I cover the team. I cover the team closer than anybody. And I'm looking at him like, I have no idea. I have no clue who 81 is. No idea. We had to Google it. We had to Google it right there. When you are Googling players in the stands, that is when you know how shallow, or I guess how deep, depending on how you want to look at it, the Saints are having to go to try and just field a roster.
Like Pettis was a receiver.
Kevin Austin.
Kevin Austin Jr. had 2 catches for 36 yards.
It's his first NFL game. In like 3, I think ever, or in like 3 years at least.
It's been a few years for sure. At least.
Dante Pettis is somebody like I know who he is. He's a second-round pick. Went to Washington, but it's been a minute since I've seen him. Like I thought he was done.
Yeah,
in the
Valdez-Scantling.
I mean, honestly, I know I said this about the offensive line whenever everyone was hurt. If you have Kevin Austin, Mason Tipton, Jermaine Jackson, Dante Pettis, Marquez Valdez-Scantling, if you have that wide receiver group, is that better than what like Colorado has? Is that a better wide receiver group than what Alabama has or Georgia has or Ohio State? No, hell no, right? Like that is the level of player that we are fielding rosters with because of injury and because of just what's happening. It's crazy. It is actually insane to think like, well, this is probably like the 5th best wide receiver group in the SEC, and the Saints are trying to win games with it.
Yeah. It's all we needed was MVS this entire time. A little championship magic sprinkled on top of the Saints. Like, how the hell are you going to get a new receiver and then he comes up with a deep shot like that?
Well, I mean, Pettis hasn't played in the NFL since 2022, and he's out there catching passes, returning kicks for you. Yeah. So, I mean, we talk about duct tape and super glue all the time here. This was duct tape and super glue roster. And it goes,
hell yeah, not to mention like Jordan Mims. Jordan Mims is your backup running back in this game. Jordan Mims is getting meaningful touches. He has been waived twice this year. He's been released twice. Like, and then in a rivalry game, Mims is getting touches.
Goes out there. Now, like, you played well against the Falcons in the first matchup, too. You should have won that game.
Yes.
Like, for whatever this defense does, it confuses this Falcons offense. So, like, because there was a lot of stats. Like, Kurt threw for over 300 yards.
I was going to say, it feels like you were getting outplayed, but the Falcons just made all these, like, missing field goals, just high leverage mistakes.
And a kicker that doesn't miss field goals either.
Yeah.
You had some fumbles. You had the interception from Tyron there. Bijan ran for over 100 yards. You had 2 receivers that were right under 100 yards.
Yeah, Mooney and London both had 90-something yards.
The Falcons. But it just felt like you had their number whenever you had to make the play. And it was good to see them actually celebrate, to enjoy victory from going out there and beating a rival. And I'm with you. Like, if I'm a Saints fan, I don't really want them to win too many games this year because you want.
So I know I talk about this every single video. The reason that I say tanking does not exist is because the only people who want tanking, the only people who are rooting for a tank, are the only people who have no impact on the game at all, right? Who wants tanking? The fans and the front office. They are the last 2 groups that have impact on the game. Who has impact on the game? The coaches and the players. So when you have an inverse of who wants tanking and who doesn't, and an inverse of who can impact the game and who can't. This isn't basketball. This isn't baseball. In basketball and baseball, the front office can say, hey, those players aren't playing. Hey, that pitcher's on a pitch count. Hey, we're sitting that pitcher for the rest of the season. They can tank in those sports. As long as your players are going out there in the NFL, they are sure as hell not just going to get abused for 4 quarters for 10 weeks or whatever. That's why tanking isn't a thing. The idea of tanking, no doubt about it. The fans, the front office, the GM, the owners, they probably do think like, hey, I would rather lose than win, for sure. But until they can actually impact what happens on the field, that's why tanking doesn't matter.
To have a good draft pick and all those type of things.
Are we on the Shedeur Sanders bandwagon, guys, yet?
I've been on it.
Another big dub? No, I know you are. I'm more talking to Taylor and others here because there's a lot of haters out there in the coach prime.
Shedeur, sweet. I like Shedeur. I like Travis Hunter, too. 23-1 Heisman ticket in my pocket. I believe right now Travis Hunter is officially the favorite to win the Heisman. So we just got to survive whatever it is, 6 weeks, 7 weeks, and we can get that ticket home.
Haters continue to suffer, but yes, Jake. Anyway, I don't want him to win a ton.
Yeah, because
don't worry with this kind of roster. I mean, how can you not win games when you have Pettis and Austin out there?
That's true, but you're about to play like another bad team in the Browns.
Yeah, I mean, you got the Browns. You take care of business there. Rams are a good team. You still have the Raiders. You still have the Giants. You got the Bucks at the end of the year. Like, there are winnable games on the schedule, winnable, I mean, I'm not saying 9-10 wins here, but I think you can get to about 8 wins if you're the Saints.
Damn it.
And then you've got the Giants still on the schedule. Yeah. You've got the Raiders still on the schedule.
Yep.
You're only 3 games back from Atlanta right now.
No.
I know. I'm just saying.
No, we ain't playing these games.
No.
But that's what's so crazy. And I think about it every 20 minutes. It's like, you give us one game. You give us the Carolina game back. You give us the first Atlanta game back. You give us the Philly game. Really, the Atlanta and Carolina games. You give us those back. We are in great position right now. It's like we're one game too late. We're one game short. And that part does sting.
They would have to look.
Unless the Rizzler has Rizzler-level superpowers, the same way that little kid has captured the entire internet and pop culture world as a whole and is now making millions of dollars. If Rizzi indeed does have that sort of charisma, maybe that's the only way. But no, I'm not allowing myself to go anywhere beyond this Sunday. Enjoy this because you beat your arch rival.
Yeah, enjoy it.
They don't get the sweep. Sure. They were parading up and down Bourbon thinking they were tight, and now the fans go home frustrated, sad, and mad, and you get revenge for what was a very frustrating, sad, and mad loss from earlier this year.
It's crazy. Think about where you're at right now. You're 3-7, and you feel like you've probably had a much worse season than Tampa Bay, like another rival in your division. They're 4-6.
I know. Isn't that odd?
I mean, They had a tough loss against the Ravens. They had a very tough loss against the Falcons, overtime, where they don't see the ball. Same situation against the Chiefs, tough loss, overtime, they don't see the ball. And then yesterday, they lose on basically like a walk-off field goal, 23-20 against the 49ers on, I believe that one was actually in Tampa Bay.
I mean, look at a lot of teams. Like, look at the Bengals. Like, there are teams out there who it's like, this team seems like they're having a much better season than us. And you look at the records, and it's like, well, it shows you how hard it is to win in the league. You look around, you look at the Saints, you're like, okay, we have, Derek Carr has been hurt. We have Spencer Rattler. You have Mason Tipton. You have Connor McGovern. Like, okay, I can see how the Saints are where they are. You look at the Bengals, it's like, well, they have Joe Burrow. Like, they have Jamar Chase. They have these players. How are they that close to us? And it just shows you, like, hey, it ain't easy. Every team isn't, 2-3 games over 500.
Hey, but like that is, oof.
The takeaway here is if Taylor even has a tenuous connection to an NFL team, they just suck. Right.
This is very true. But
because he covers the Saints here, he loves Baker Mayfield, and he loves the Cowboys.
To Jake's point, we brought it up the other day when we were talking about it. Like the Bucs were 4-2 at that point, and I brought up their schedule, and I'm like, there's a chance they lose all 4 of these. They lost all 4.
Yeah.
Now, Bucs have a really easy schedule coming up, but they're banged up. No Godwin, no Evans. They lost Tristan Wirfs yesterday. Nobody knows.
Yeah, same thing like with the Bucs. Bucs had a bad situation where they get, they've had some crazy injuries where they had these like crazy cluster injuries and they get rolled in a game and then they get healthy, look good, and then they get hurt again. I mean, like Taylor's about to say, Tristan Wirfs out for the year, Mike Evans is out, Chris Godwin's out, like all these players out. It seems like they cluster injury a lot where it's like, oh, Vita Vea's out, oh, and 2 members of the secondary, oh, and another defensive tackle are all out at the same time. It's like, man. And that's what's happened to the Saints, where it's not just one player, it's you are 2-3 receivers down. You are 2-3 members of your secondary down. You are 2-3-4-5 offensive linemen down. You're just never just like one person. And a cluster injury is the worst thing a team can go through.
Knows how long. It was a knee injury at halftime. He didn't come back. I mean, if you're the Saints, like I look at it, look what Derek Carr did with these receivers. And I get it. Derek Carr certainly has his own issues, but 269, 2 touchdowns, no turnovers, 10.8 per attempt. He was not checked down, Charlie, yesterday like we had seen.
Well, that's what happens when you have a 70-yard touchdown pass and a 50-yard touchdown pass. Like Carr had a weird game. Carr's game kind of reminded me of like Brandon Ingram's 30-point games where it's like, I'm not sure he played great, but he does have 30 points. It's like I'm not sure Carr played great, but he made some really incredible throws when it really mattered. He had some horrible plays, like the intentional grounding, but there was a lot of plays of him bailing out of the back of the pocket and just stuff that you don't like to see. And it felt like he was never really it felt like he was never in a rhythm. It felt like the Saints were never in a rhythm. It felt like the Saints were never really doing much, especially in the second half. And, then all of a sudden you look down and you're like, well, whatever. It works for me. But, I mean, you throw 2 50-plus yard touchdown passes or deep passes like that, it'll make some things look better than they are.
And sure, Cousins throws for 300 yards, but like you rattled him when you needed to. You got the interception. You sacked him 3 times. Derek Carr was not sacked yesterday.
Yeah.
So I mean, like I get it. They're 3-7, but try to make a run if you can. I know you don't want to.
You never will. No, obviously, you never set out trying to lose games. The players are not going to try to lose games. They're going to try to make a run.
Once the ball's kicked off, you don't even know what your record is.
Rizzi.
Yeah,
I mean, look at the excitement these guys play with. They're professionals. And Rizzi's not going to try to lose games, obviously, right? I mean, what a great opportunity for him.
I use this example, but Lovie Smith's last game with Houston, where if Houston loses, they get the first overall pick. And Lovie Smith marches Houston down. They have a chance to tie the game. Lovie says, no, we're going for 2. We're going to win the game. It's like anyone in their right mind, it's a meaningless game. It's the last week of the season. And anyone in their right mind says Lovie, just like, don't try and win. But for Lovie, he's thinking, I'm getting fired. Why do I care? Why do I care about the first overall pick? And they went for 2, won the game, and he was fired the next day. So, yeah, once it's kicked off, there's no thought about like, oh, we're a game back, 2 games back, we're 3-7. Here's our record. Here's this. Here's our path to the playoff. Ooh, we can get Shedeur Sanders. You think Derek Carr is going to tank games so that the Saints can get Cam Ward or Shedeur Sanders? Like, what sense does that make? What sense does it make for Darren Rizzi to tank games? He's trying to be a head coach. He's trying to secure a contract.
Him. Here as an interim coach. It's his first ever, a chance to prove himself as an NFL head coach, and we know he's an elite special teams guy, and you see multiple head coaches that are so whatever, but I just don't think they're good enough, right? I mean, even yesterday's game, huge credit to winning it and making the plays you needed to, but you probably got outplayed on the whole, like in the same way that the Falcons were lucky to win that first one. It's kind of flipped for this second one. So the fear is that, you manage to find something and then you just, you don't win anything that actually matters, but then you win too many games and you end up picking somewhere where you can't get a quarterback. But I don't know, man. Maybe I'm in the minority here. Maybe people do want to see.
I have no faith that the Saints would actually draft a quarterback either, though.
That's okay. True.
Unfortunate,
but true. I will say this, dude. I still, God, this is coming from the number one Carfax believer. I still just hate his post-game comments that are all like,
oh, the DA thing? Yeah, I did a video on that. Interesting.
So,
Oof.
Quote, we really believed that we were a good football team this whole time. And I know, trust me, for me especially, that was a long 7 weeks. Like, is it ever going to end? But we never wavered in the work, and we never wavered in the confidence of what it could be. But when you get punched in the face over and over again, it starts to hurt. Honestly, we have nothing to lose. They already fired our coach. We lost last week to a team that was in last place in our division. What else do we have to lose? I mean, just go out there and compete. I don't hate how he finished that. But then, I don't know, man. I still don't, whatever. It's Derek Carr. But yesterday was fun. Yesterday was fun.
Enjoy it, ladies and gentlemen.
You beat the Falcons.
Yes.
You avoid the sweep. That was massive. Now, I guess let's just see how the rest of this season played out. Alvin Kamara is still really good, too, for whatever that's worth. Like, if you can.
He was so dynamic when he had the ball. So dynamic. We'll see here. I mean, I know he didn't do much on the ground because they got away from him at the end there. But, man, when he got the ball, like, especially in these little screens or whatever, he was so good, so elusive. It's just fantastic. But, I mean, Kubiak, I thought really went away from Alvin. I mean, I'm not sure how many carries he had in the second half, but brutal beat if you had Alvin Kamara's receptions. It was 5.5, and that drop would have been 6. Ooh, feels bad, man. How does Vegas do it, huh?
And put this man with a team around him, Kamara can still be a star. I also did love seeing not just Cam Jordan get a sack yesterday, but Chase Young and Peyton Turner.
Yeah.
I mean, that's a lot of things that you do. You've been waiting on all those all year long, and they all came together when you needed him. Wow.
I'll tell you about how bad Peyton Turner's been. During the game when he got a sack, someone looked back at us and said, "Who's 98?" I mean, that's when you know. It's one thing to not know who Kevin Austin is, but the fact that people are forgetting Peyton Turner exists, tough look. But Alvin's funny, though, right? Like, Alvin's like, man, Alvin Kamara is so good. Alvin Kamara this, and this. And you look at the box score, and it's like, well, he was 17 for 55 for a 3.2 average. Pretty rough. But, yeah, he was so dynamic when he got the ball in space. No doubt about that. But there you go. What do you think? Let me know in the comments below. Is Darren Rizzi solved it all? Is the culture fixed? Are the Saints ready to go on a run? Let me know in the comments below. Thank you for watching, and I will see you in the next video.